the fans are mounted. I think they came out pretty good. If I was going to change anything with this setup, the only thing I would do is I've taken this cover off. The only thing I'd do is pop that washer out, take the fan blade off, and then maybe spray paint that white. Still not sure. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, but everything else under the cabinet is white, except for like that switch, that knob. But I'll try not to be as OCD on these, I guess, but who knows? I might paint them. Not sure yet, but that's the way they look now. Now, since these two fans will be mounted here and there, what I need to do is drill about 2 holes, one about here and one about here. And what that's going to do is it's going to suck the air out of those 2 holes and into the back of the cabinet. So what I need to do now is do a bunch of measuring and then cut out 2 holes roughly around here and roughly around here. So I want 1 hole right around 8 and 1 hole right around 13, just right there. So now I know I need to drill my holes right there. So what I did is I took a 1/2-inch paddle bit and just drilled out a whole bunch of different holes. I tried to start with the big one, but that just took way too long. The paddle bit went right through, and that should be enough airflow to really cool down this sump, especially with 2 fans. And that's where the hot air will exit from. So now I just have to wire these up and mount this back into place. And here is the fan system all wired up. So now I'm just going to install that into the cabinet. And here they are installed. So what do you think? Maybe we should give them a test? All right. I'm just using this 18-volt battery. One side says positive, one side says negative. So I'll put the positive, positive, negative, negative. So I just temporarily tape this together, come to the back, and test airflow. And I'll get a piece of paper and show you how much airflow there actually is. So I'm just going to use this scrap piece of paper, paper towel. And as you can see, there is a lot of airflow coming through here. Those where the vent holes are. Same with the other side. So I call this success. And as much as it pained for me to do, I cut a hole right there for the inlet fan, which will bring cool air into the sump from this hole. I just finished installing the other fan. Let's give it a test on the battery, see if it works. Wow. Yeah. This thing is moving some air. There's a lot of air movement in here. Oh, wow. So, all 3 fans are on and working. Man, it feels like an air conditioner in here. Sweet. Well, I'm glad that worked out. Man, these are some high power fans too. That's great. Little loud, but you know, when your tank is overheating, I think the last thing you're going to be worried about is noise. So what I've done here is, this is the top of the cabinet with the top panel removed. And what I've done here is I've just cut out these pieces of MDF. And without these pieces, this fan would be sucking all the air from inside of here. So I don't want that to happen because, you know, there's holes and there's cracks here. So what I want to do is put this piece of wood right here so it stops sucking out any air from right here and just right in this section inside of this hole. So the hot air is going to escape here and blow out here, not blow back into the sump. So I've just created these pieces of MDF, and this is the same thing on the other side. So what I'm going to do now is just caulk these 2 pieces in place using the Aquascape Pro because I ran out of the liquid nails. And now with those two pieces caulked in place, I'm going to put the top back on. And now with the top back on, I'm going to show you what my next plan is I've made a mark here, and I've also made this mark here. So when this fan is blowing, it's actually sucking air from the cabinet, and it's going to exit out of these holes. Now, another thing I was thinking about doing, and here's my idea, since the fan is going to be blowing up, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill a big hole right here. So when the tank is in place, that fan is going to blow air up through this hole and circulate air on the bottom of the tank. Now there is a little gap. I think there's like a 1/2 inch gap between this and the bottom of the tank. So what's going to happen is it's going to blow all that air, circulate it, and it's going to exit this hole. So I'm going to drill that out and cut that out and see if this actually works. And now with the top in place where it needs to go, as you can see, that's our fan. So that'll spin like so, suck the hot air out from the cabinet, blow air through this area. It's going to exit here. And as you can see, there's an exit right there, and that's where it's going to exit from. So I call this a success. So now I'm just going to put all the screws back where they belong. And then I'm going to hook the main power up and see how this works out. So I just have this Netgear AC to DC adapter laying in my spare parts of electronics. And as you can see, the output is 12 volt and 1 amp. So I'm just going to connect this to the fan power, positive, negative. And then I'm going to plug this into power and give it a test. And that is pumping a lot of air out of this hole. Let's give it a shot on a paper towel. Look at that. That's super nice. Should see some airflow in the back, which we do. Oh yeah. That's a lot of airflow coming out. And it was a lot more with the 18 volt. Like I said, that power supply is a 12 volt, so it's not as high, but I could always put an 18 volt on. So yeah, that's gonna cool off the bottom of the aquarium real nicely. And now with the tank back in place and the fans on, let's just see how much airflow is coming out of our exit hole. And as you can see, it's moving. I mean, I can feel it from here. There's a lot of airflow coming out of here. So that's definitely a win. Not only is it circulating the hot air inside of the cabinet, but it's also circulating the hot air underneath of the aquarium at the same time. And while I was down here, I thought I'd see if I can get the lights to work. So I just have my 12 volt and I'll hit the on button and they do work. Let's see if our adjustment knob works. Oh, look at that dimming. So now I can just dim it whenever I want to. Just like so. So if you have kept up to date with all the videos in this series so far, you should know I can't leave anything alone, so I went ahead and added another fan. So that's a total of 4 fans in here. And if this is your first time joining, yeah, I can't leave anything alone. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. And now this one is blowing the cool air from the back side of the cabinet. It comes through here, and that's blowing cool air. Sucking, sucking, blowing. Total of 4 fans. And what's really cool about this fan in particular is it's right underneath of where the sump is going to be. So that's just blowing cool air straight down into the water, which is going to come in really handy for cooling the water temperature. So what I'm working on today is the top of the cabinet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen these screws. I'm going to apply some super glue in the holes and then caulk the top, and then remove the top, take it over there and paint this whole top white, and also install a cable for our overflow sensor. And the only real reason I'm doing this is just so the screws don't pop through at any point. Just give them a nice wipe, and that's done. So the next thing I'm going to do is take all the other screws off and take it over for paint. And what I'm making right now is just going to be a fill cover for that hole. So I'm going to cut this out, drill that hole out, and then cut this in half. Now with the piece cut, just going to give this a good coat of spray paint and then let that dry overnight. So in my other tank, I have a overflow sensor in the overflow compartment of the aquarium. So when the pump pushes water into the aquarium, it fills up the overflow. And if the overflow gets too high, I have a sensor that tells me it's too high, and what that actually does is it tells the apex to turn the pump off until that problem gets fixed. That could come from a clogged pipe, you know, a snail gets in there, or, you know, whatever. It just gets clogged up with gunk after time. What that does is it tells the apex to turn the pump off. So I want to do the same thing in this aquarium, because that did happen to my other aquarium, I think 2 or 3 times since I've had it. And it was a snail that got in there. I don't know how, but got in there somehow. So what I'm going to do now is just run my cable for that. And ultimately, I'm just going to use one of these holes, and it's going to come through and into the overflow section of the aquarium. So what I'm going to do now is just run my cable through all the pre-cut holes and then down into the apex compartment and out the side. So this might be the last time you get to see the top of the cabinet before I put the top on. And I'm going to do that now. And one of the main reasons why I painted the top of the cabinet is when hot air gets pushed up and cools the tank off, which creates this circular air pattern. I don't want this to be bare wood, just in case there is condensation that might build up on the bottom of the tank and the top of this board. So the paint will just keep it from absorbing into the wood. So now I'm just going to screw this in. And then wait for this to dry, and then put the aquarium back in place. And now I'm just labeling all of the wires. And now with our pieces dry, it came out pretty well. So underneath the sump, these two will just connect together like that. And that's where the overflow pipe's going to be. So that didn't end up the way I wanted it to. Inside hole was too small. I guess I measured wrong. So I made another one, and I just have to wait for that to dry. And so now with our new piece cut out and painted and the overflow installed, I'm going to mount that on the bottom of the overflow. And I'm going to use Velcro to do that. So as you can see, I just put some Velcro strips on the back of this. And as you can see, there's 2 of them. One that gets attached to the overflow cover. The other ones are sticky, so they'll stick to the top. Just give it a very firm press. And there we are. So now not much air will leak out of this when the fan is on cooling the underneath the aquarium. And so the next thing I'm working on is an LED system for in the sump to grow frags and Kato and whatever else. So I got these heat sinks from Amazon, and they are almost 4 inches long by a 1/2 inch wide, and I have 2 of them. So my plan is, as you can see from this, I'm going to have 2 heat sinks that are going to rest like this. As you can see, there's going to be 3 jumpers on the bottom side where the LEDs are going to get mounted to these heat sinks. And this piece is an aluminum bracket that I have to make out of this piece of aluminum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my measurements, cut this aluminum, and start mounting this together. So with the aluminum bracket in place, I'm going to leave 1 inch between the two heat sinks. And then that's going to be my bend line. Those two marks are going to be my bend line. So I'm going to have to bend this aluminum up and then out on these lines. The good thing about aluminum is it's pretty easy to bend. So once I have my line, all I have to do is just press down like so. And when the bracket is bent into shape, I just measured from the bottom up 1.5 inches on both sides. So now I have to cut that line and cut that line. So I've switched the setup a little bit. Instead of the bracket going like that and then out, I have them going in. And I also drilled the bracket 1 hole for a small hole and then a larger hole, so that this part is going to be mounted up against the ceiling, and this screw is going to be able to go through that hole to go in that hole to be able to screw to the top. So now the next thing I have to do is just mount these two pieces of heatsink to this bracket. So then I just lined up the holes of where they need to be drilled, like so. So I'm going to drill this one out real quick. So as you can see, the hole I drilled actually goes through one of the fins on the heatsink. So after boring that out a little bit, now you can see this will fit right in, like so. And now all I have to do is just get a screw, line it up in here, which is a little tedious, but it's all right. This is the other one mounted in place. It looks pretty good. So now I just have to line everything up and then drill out that hole next. And now with that hole drilled out, as you can see, they line up just like so. And now that's our completed piece. So I don't know if you can see that well or not, but an LED will go there, go there, go there, go there, and repeat it on the same board. There, 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 there. So the bolts are not in the way, and I think it came out pretty well. So from the top, it'll sit like that. I should probably cut these bolts off to make it look better. So now I'm just waiting on the LEDs to get here. So I did go ahead and cut the extra screw lengths off. So that's the finished piece. So you know me, my OCD started flaring up. So what I did is I countersunk all the holes. So now you don't see any screw heads from the side.
In the next episode, I will finish the LED system, finally finish the tank, and prep it for the big move. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring that bell for notifications of new videos. It's completely free and a great way to support the channel.